Good morning and welcome to Fountain Street Church. I'm the Reverend Christopher Rowe. I use he, him pronouns, and I have the honor of serving as the acting senior minister here at this Cathedral of Love and this Temple of Peace. On behalf of everybody who calls this their spiritual home, welcome to our summer speakers worship service this morning. It is August 8th. Can you believe that? It is already August 8th. I was just talking with our own Danny Heck about how mind-blowing it is that we are this far into the summer and this close to fall, but let's not rush time. We have a wonderful lineup of speakers, including Amber Kilpatrick, who joins us this morning to share of herself and her voice and her words. I am so grateful for Amber for surrendering her message to all of us this morning. Additionally, we welcome Robin Connell to the piano this morning. It's always such a treat to have the gift of her music with us to enhance our worship. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, whether you're right here in Grand Rapids or up Fountain Street or across the country, no matter who you believe in or what you don't believe in at all, who you love or who you are loved by, no matter what your religious orientation is or how you found yourself here this morning, please know that you have a place in this community where love and justice and inclusion and equity are a part of the shared work of our liberating faith. So on behalf of everyone who shares in this work together, please let me welcome you to our summer worship this morning. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Amber Kilpatrick, and I am an eco-spiritualist, a master naturalist, and a rites of passage guide, living and learning and walking with all of you here in this Fountain Street Church community. I want to take a moment to thank whomever it was who suggested that I too be added to this list in the Summer Speakers series. It truly feels like an honor to be able to stand in this place, in the place where so many greats have stood, like Nuria Love Parrish, Elizabeth Barnum, and Mariella Perez Simmons, just to name a few. So thank you for allowing me to share the meditations of my heart with you today. In my work, I facilitate and hold space. I lead programs and retreats and trainings which are designed to reconnect and remember to put back in place our divine connection with the earth and with its living beings and with the greater mystery of spirit that is all around us. And it is this work that drives my words here today, in hopes of sharing with you a sermon that more deeply connects you to your divine earthly birthright. When I was asked months ago to take part in this series, I began brainstorming titles for this sermon, for this opportunity to speak. And at that time, I thought the title, Seeing Earth as Ourselves, was the direction that I wanted to take. And it still is, although the content has shifted. Originally, I had chosen that title because I wanted to share with you the miraculous detail that is all around us and within us. The worlds upon worlds upon worlds that can be found when we take time to truly appreciate that which is living and growing and being alive in this natural world. Like the intricacies at the center of a flower, or the universe that is inside our own human cells, and the masterful ingenuity that can be found in even a simple bird nest. I wanted to share with you these often overlooked details as a way of reminding you that the beauty and intricacy and miraculousness that lives around us is also us, you. We are just as intricate. We are just as miraculous. And I still want that for you. I hope at some point in my 15-ish minutes that you have that resonance within you, that you are a miracle. For you to have that heart hit, that thing that feels right and true. That you are a world within a world itself, and that you are divine. But first, I'm going to invite you to grieve. Not long before the time of this recording, there was discovered in Canada a large mass grave. A mass grave containing the bodies of more than 200 children, Indigenous children. These children were forcibly taken from their families, their culture, their homes, and made to live at a residential school that was funded by the Christian church. And before we go blaming Canada for these problems, these schools were also here in the US, only they were called Native American boarding schools. And in fact, here in Michigan, we had 3. I'm asking you to grieve not only those 200 lives, but the thousands more that have also recently been discovered in the few months prior in Canada and even here in the US, in Pennsylvania at Carlisle Boarding School. As a mother myself, I pause because I wonder what it's like to miss your children for over 100 years. These bodies have been in mass graves, unmarked graves, for more than 100 years. And to finally have them found, to finally be able to return them to their birthright place with their people, their culture, their land, feels like a homecoming, but it also feels immensely, horribly sad. So why were there these boarding schools, these residential schools in the first place? Well, we can give credit to the doctrine of discovery, something written by a pope in the 1400s that gave European explorers the right to go discover lands and claim them as their own, to also spread Christendom, as the appropriate and one true religion. That indoctrination then is woven into the fabric of every stitch in our modern society, whether you are a Christian or not. And let me pause, because I do want to say I am not blaming religion. I am not at all bad-mouthing or blaming Jesus. There's not a single scripture that I'm aware of that says we should kill the Indian to save the man. And yet that was the decree. That was the charge when creating these schools of assimilation and cultural erasure. And again, funded by the church, Big C. So my theory is this, that those who were conquering and desecrating this land were so severed from their own birthright relationship to earth that they deemed those who were connected, were in relationship with, were at one with, as unholy, as unworthy, as unwanted. Their own indoctrination, those who were conquering this land, were led to believe that they were better than those who were here first. Those who were conquering this land were so severed from their divine nature of earth beings that they then labeled earth-based spiritualities and people as unholy, as savages, as heathens. And so began centuries and centuries of forcible removal, displacement, enslavement, torture, desecration, all at the expense of the land we live upon and at the expense of the people and cultures who had meaningful, reciprocal, holy relationship with earth. And it's this desecration, this loss of life and culture and destruction that I'm asking you to grieve today, as well as your own severing from this holy earth. Whether you are of a religion or not, the indoctrination and influence of the doctrine of discovery, of the unholiness of earth-based people has been woven deeply into the fabric of our society, and perhaps even you have some reckoning to do around the words or spiritualities or practices of those who are earth-based. So your own severing from our holy heavenly earth should also be grieved. So how does one grieve such a loss? A loss of our own severance from an earth mother, a severance from other peoples and cultures. How do we reckon with the destruction of heaven on earth? How do we reckon with deeming others so unworthy of life that we'll just throw them into a garbage dump and call it a grave? How do we grieve centuries and centuries of abuse, of a separation from the earth and the divine feminine? I will not try to tell you how to grieve. I don't know what that looks like for you. For me, it has meant tears, silence, reflection, journaling, and a commitment to elevating the voices of the traumatized, advocacy in the environment and social justice causes. And it's also meant a lot of barefoot walking on the land, placing my hands on wounded places, whether that's dirt or trees, maybe a parking lot, to not only send my sympathy and my sadness, but also my immense gratitude. And maybe that's what it will be like for you too. Or perhaps it's simply walking around with a piece of sadness in your heart every day. And I don't say this to depress you or to say that we're not worthy of happiness, but that's what grief feels like. Ask any parent who is grieving, anyone who's lost a partner or a lover or a friend. You walk around balancing that immense sadness with that immense happiness every day. The earth does this. She's doing it now. She is simultaneously providing abundant nourishment in some bioregions, while in others, she's on fire, burning and dying. And while, yes, I believe in science and climate change, I also think that these signs of environmental catastrophe are, in fact, the earth herself grieving. And she's holding space for both life and abundance and nurturing in some areas, death and dying in others. She's showing us how to grieve. Earth as ourselves. Earth as a living, breathing, feeling being. Earth people and earth-based cultures, earth-based spiritual beliefs as holy as worthy. You as miraculous, divine, and worthy. We are capable of holding space for immense gratitude, intense grief, and a new way forward. We can feel the enormity of both and walk into a new way forward, so that we are not only in awe of individuals who look like us and think like us and speak like us. So we're not only in awe of the aurora borealis or the national parks, but also the ordinariness of the sparrow and the tenacity of the dandelion and the sacredness that we can experience when we look into the eyes of a stranger, of a friend, or of our own reflection. A remembering, a putting back together, putting back in place our divine connection to earth, its spirit, and all of its people. Poet laureate Joy Harjo shares this depth of reconnecting and remembering in her poem of a similar name. It's called Remember, and I want to share that with you now. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, and their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember you are all people, and all people are you. Remember you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. Thank you.
Every week, you and I have the opportunity to participate a little bit in worship. We have the opportunity to give a little bit of ourselves and to respond to the wonder and the awe and the imagination that brings our worship together. We call that the offering, and this is the invitation to offering. It happens every week, and I would be remiss if I don't remind you that 50% of that offering goes directly out of these walls and into our community, and the other 50%, it stays here to keep this ministry alive and to keep this building going and this staff functioning. All of it matters in our shared work of liberating faith, and so with the spirit of generosity and gratitude, the offering will now most graciously be received. Thank you, everyone, for being with us this morning. A special and huge thank you to Amber Kilpatrick for your inspiring and lovely message to all of us today. And of course, to Robin Connell for your gift of music that made this worship service all the deeper and more meaningful. And thank you to each of you who continues to show up, who continues to call this their spiritual home, and who continues to wonder and wander with us together as we make our way through this summer season. So on behalf of everyone, the staff, the community, the congregation, the speakers, the musicians, on behalf of everyone, please let me send you into this week with love and peace. May you go in peace, be healthy, and stay resilient, my friends. We'll see you next week.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religions too. Imagine all the people someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. Brotherhood of man. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.